Hey friends, it's me, Michelle Labelle, again, here to talk to you about bisexuality and something that I brought up in the last video that I did. I mentioned that I'm polyamorous. Now, some people are like, what is that? Is that like polygamy? Are you like Mormon? Are you like a sister wife or something like that? I'm like, no. Alas, polygamy and polyamory are two very different things. And so I wanted to talk about that because there's a lot of things that relate to being bisexual and being polyamorous that are very, I feel like it's all kind of intersectional in many ways. And not only are there things as biphobia, I believe there's polyphobia as well. And another thing that I talked about was how within the community, the LGBT community, there's marginalization that the bisexuals face. Well, within the bisexual community, there is a marginalization that polyamorous people face. And I believe this is because there are those that think that we're giving all the bisexuals a bad name and we are enforcing or reinforcing the stereotype that bisexuals are promiscuous and slutty and all of those things. And so I want to dispel some of those myths and I want to kind of clarify on what all of these things are and how they relate to being bisexual. So firstly, anybody can be polyamorous. Many people are polyamorous and don't even know it, including straight people. So this is not an exclusive to bisexuals thing by a long shot. There are heterosexual men that are polyamorous. There are homosexual men that are polyamorous. There are homosexual women that are polyamorous. And of course, bisexuals as well. And trans individuals that are polyamorous. I'm very good friends with a trans woman that has a boyfriend and a girlfriend. So there you go. And yeah, she's bisexual too, so there you go. So that being said, what is polyamory? Okay, polyamory is a relationship style that basically means that you have the freedom to be with multiple partners at a time. Not necessarily at exactly the same time, like we're not all just having orgies and stuff. It's not about that. I mean, it can be for some people, and if that's what you're into, then more power to you. I make no judgments on anybody's lifestyle choices. But that's not really what it's about. It's not about having massive orgies. It's really more about being an individual that has the ability to have deep emotional and sexual connections and attractions to more than one person at a time. Now you might be saying to yourself, I feel like I may have felt this way before. And I know a lot of people that were in love with two people at the same time, and I'm talking about specifically straight girls in this one occasion. I know a girl who was in love with two different guys at the same time, and she was like, I love both of them, and they're both different, and how do I choose which one I want to be with? Here's the thing about polyamory. You don't have to choose. That's the point. And a really, really great way to equate it to, like, you know, anybody else's life is, for example, like, how many friends do you have? Do you have just one best friend that you spend all of your time with every single solitary day, like every hangout, every single thing that you do? You only do it with this one person? Now, there's some people out there that are like, yeah, that's totally me. And that's awesome. That's you. That's great, you know? But there are a great deal of people, and I don't necessarily want to say majority because, again, I don't pretend to speak for any majority. But there are a great deal of people that have multiple friends. You have your friend that you go watch horror movies with, and maybe you have your friend that you go hiking with, and maybe you have your friend that you go to the beach with, and maybe you have your friend that you do cosplay with, because each individual person has something unique to offer to you through their friendship. And polyamory is about that. It's about the fact that there are those of us that are cut from this cloth, that we are capable of having deep emotional connections with more than one person and sexual attractions to more than one person. And we can have relationships with more than one person. And the person that we have the relationship with, they can also be polyamorous, and they can have their multiple relationships, or they could be monoamorous. And you're like, whoa, I've never heard that word. What does that mean? Okay, so monoamorous or monoamory, which is the opposite of polyamory, are those individuals that are only capable of loving and having deep emotional and sexual connections with one person at a time. And this is a lot of people. This is like a huge chunk of people. For example, my grandparents, they have known each other since they were like 15, 16 years old. And they got married right away, and they've been together for over 60 years. And they can't even, or almost 60 years, I want to say, they can't possibly imagine being with another human being. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's awesome. I think that's amazing. I have my oldest aunt. She and her husband were high school sweethearts. And they got married at 18 years old, and they've been together for like 40 plus years now. And that's a beautiful thing. I think that's wonderful. And that was something in my family that was looked at highly, that was something to strive for. It was something to aspire to, was to find that one great love of your life, that one soulmate that you settle down with for the rest of your life and have babies with and like the whole shenanigan. And I, for a long time in my life, up until fairly recently, was kind of a serial monogamist. But like not really, but I'll get into that a little later. But I had that same thought of this is something to aspire to, is to be like my grandparents or to be like my aunt and to have this one great love that I'll marry and be committed to until the day that I die. Alas, the reality for me personally and for other polyamorous individuals is that I was living somebody else's life. I was living a life that had been put in front of me and told, this is the best thing ever. And I was like, I believed it because I didn't think that polyamory was an option. I didn't even kind of know that it existed until I got into my first polyamorous relationship when I was like, I want to say I was 20, somewhere around there. And 19. I had a boyfriend and a girlfriend. And oh no, I was 18 because this is when I came out to my mother. And I was like, hey mom, so I have a girlfriend. And she was like, okay. And I was like, and I have a boyfriend. And she was like, ay, mija, ¿qué es esto? Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily met with joy. Like, she wasn't thrilled about it. And it wasn't something that I even really talked about or shared with people because I didn't want people to judge me and think I was like a slut or something. Because I was with two people at the same time. And they knew about each other, and we were all together with each other, sometimes separately, sometimes at the same time. And you're probably going like, oh my god, it's the bisexual and the threesomes and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Yes. There are some of us bisexuals that do like to have threesomes. And that is okay. Stop bitching about it. Stop being angry about it. Get all of the things that you have in your head about it, like, get it out of there. Because there's no reason to hate on somebody or to judge somebody because of the fact that they enjoy being with more than one person at the same time. Because at the end of the day, if you're not hurting anybody and it's consensual with all parties involved, which every time that I've ever done it, it has been. Yeah, there's been more than once. It's fine. It's totally fine. You know, the people that have a problem with it are the people that don't get it or don't understand it or maybe secretly wish that they could get away with doing it. And it's not necessarily something that you get away with doing, but in their minds, they feel like it would be something to get away with doing. And they're worried about the social stigma and all of those things that come with having multiple partners, and they don't want to be looked at that way. You know, or they're just really stuck in the monogamous mindset, which monogamy is a social construct. It is something that was created by our society to dictate to us what is normal and what is the proper family structure. Now, if you look at our relatives in genetics, like chimpanzees, for example, with whom we share something like 95% of DNA with, chimpanzees don't practice monogamy. In fact, there are very few mammals that practice monogamy that mate for life. And the ones that do, hey, that's awesome. More power to you. That's great. But not everybody is cut from that cloth. And the main difference between polyamory and polygamy is that polyamory is the freedom to be you and to be with who you want to be with without restriction, and all that's okay. Whereas polygamy is more about ownership. It is about a man attaching these women to himself. Because usually polygamy, you don't hear about one woman having like 8 husbands. It's generally a man with multiple wives. And the purpose of multiple wives is for him and everything that he gets out of it. And they belong to him. They are his. If you ask me, I think monogamy, I'm not, hey, if that's your lifestyle and that's what you want and that's how you're happy, and if that's the cloth that you are cut from, more power to you. But to me, because some people are like, oh, you're so greedy. That's another bisexual, phrase that I hear all the time. Oh, you guys are so greedy and you're so this and you just want all of people all the time. And it's like, I think that to expect somebody to commit to you and only you, and they are yours, and you are theirs too, whatever, or you are there, however you want to say it. I think that's a lot more greedy. I think that's a lot more selfish to only want to keep somebody all to yourself and vice versa. Granted, when it's a mutual thing, it's a beautiful thing. And again, I'm not trying to criticize anybody who's, monogamous or whatever. I just don't agree with saying that polyamory and or bisexuality is about being greedy or about being selfish. In fact, it's not about being greedy because I don't expect anybody to be mine. To me, love is not about ownership. To me, love is not about, you have to only be with me all the time. I believe that if you love somebody, you let them be who they are, you let them be free. And as long as you set your terms out on the table and you're very clear about what it is that what you want and what you don't want, then it's all good, right? So there's lots of little cool things within polyamory to talk about. Like, for example, there is such a thing as called poly-blended friendships. And poly-blended means that you, let's say, okay, I'm the, like, well, for these purposes, we'll say I'm the main partner, okay? I'm partner A. And I have partner B, C, and D, right? So what poly-blended means is that my partners, B, C, and D, they all hang out together and they're friends and they're cool with each other. Is that every polyamorous relationship? Not necessarily. Sometimes partners B, C, and D don't know each other at all and they have nothing to do with each other. Sometimes partners B, C, and D, sometimes they might have a polyamorous relationship between themselves besides with me. But that's not, again, that's not every case, and every polyamorous relationship is unique and different. Another thing that, relating sort of to poly-blended, which is all about friendship, really, is, there are some people in polyamorous relationships where if, for example, I'm partner A and I have partner B, and I'm going to bring in a new partner C that I'm going to be with. And for some people, my partner B has to meet partner C to make sure that they like each other, or that they get along, or that they approve. And that's, again, not every polyamorous relationship is like that. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's like, it's none of your business. But generally, when it comes to any time that you're having like a sexual relationship with somebody, it makes sense and it's courteous to let other people know, like, hey, this is who, I'm also having a relationship with, so that there's no weirdness or strangeness if ever you're out in public with this person and the other partner shows up and it's not like, well, who's that? Polyamory is not about jealousy. It's not about envy. It's not about any of those negative emotions or anything like that. And there's different types of polyamorous people. For example, like there's your solo poly people. And solo poly people are people that live alone, that they don't want children, or they don't want to live with anybody. This is kind of like me right now. I don't want kids. I don't want to live with anybody. I want to do my own thing. I want to be my own person. I want to come and go as I please and not answer to anybody, because I'm my own. I'm a free human being. I'm an individual, and I truly love having the freedom that I have as a single person. And really, polyamory is just another word for non-monogamy. Okay, so you're like, what do you mean? Okay, well, let's say this. Okay, so, like, how many guys or girls or whoever, how many people do you know that they're single, but they're dating multiple people at the same time? That's polyamory. That's it. Very simple. It's nothing crazy. If you've ever been dating multiple people and you haven't chosen which one specifically you want to be with, and you like and you have sex with, and you're in an open relationship, that's non-monogamy, which is another form of polyamory. And there's a lot of people that do that. There are many couples, and I have been in this situation as well, where as a couple, if you practice swinging, that's another form of polyamory or non-monogamy. There are many couples where you will have a bisexual woman and a straight man, and every now and then they'll bring in a girl to have fun with. That's polyamory. And these were things that I was practicing. I many times was the bisexual girl in the straight guy relationship that we would be doing that with. And I didn't even think of it that way. I didn't even know to identify it in that way, or that that's what it was called. But that's what it was. And I've been this way my whole life. I've always been this person with the capacity to love multiple individuals. And there have been many times in my life where I have felt deep, deep heartbreak because I was in a relationship with somebody and I fell in love with somebody else, and I didn't want to leave this person, but I wasn't able to be with this person because I was respectful of the monogamy that I had. You know, I didn't want to cheat on this person. I didn't want to lie or hide or go behind their back. And so I pushed all of those feelings and everything aside, and the sometimes very, very recently, very deep, deep emotional connection that I had with somebody I fell madly in love with, like just incredibly in love with. And I brought it up to my partner, and they were like, no way. Needless to say, we're not partners anymore. But, you know, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, that's like having your cake and eating it too. And I'm like, yeah, so what? So what? Who cares? Why do you care what I do in my bedroom? It does not affect you or anybody else at all. It only affects me and the people that I bring into the scenario. And again, like I said, as long as it's all consensual and we're all agreeing and we all know these terms, then it affects no one, really. So something that comes up in polyamorous relationships is, or can come up in polyamorous relationships, is competitiveness. Because a lot of people say, well, how could you even manage being with more than one person at a time, and don't people get jealous of each other if you spend more time with one than with the other, and all of this stuff? And that can happen, absolutely, because we're all human beings, we all have human emotion, and we can feel neglected, and we can feel left out, and nobody wants to feel those things. And so the way that you counteract competitiveness between your partners is you have to take time for each one. Each person has to get individual quality time with you, firstly. Secondly, each person needs to be something special to you, special and unique to you, that your other partners probably aren't. So like, again, it's like having multiple friends. Like, I may have a girlfriend that I go hiking with. I may have a boyfriend that I watch scary movies with. I may have a girlfriend that I go to museums with. And they are all each individually a unique, completely different person. And when they realize how different they all are, because why would I be with like 3 clones? I mean, and there's people that may be into that, you know, I don't know. Again, I make no judgments. But me personally, why would I be with 3 clones? It's not what polyamory is about. Because ultimately, not one single individual can provide another one with all their needs. Unless you're one of those people that is, you know, monogamous and you're cut from that cloth, where you're able to find a partner that embraces everything about you and supports everything about you and likes to do all exactly the same things that you do, but those are few and far between. The reality is that for many people, and people like me, I have a very wide diversity of interests and hobbies and things that I like and things that I'm passionate about, and I have yet to meet one single person that had all those things in common with me, and not only that, but was willing to accommodate me and to try these things with me. Like, for example, I love to dance salsa. This is just, I'm Puerto Rican, I love salsa music. I love my culture. I love the dance. I'm very social. I like to go out social dancing. I have never been with anybody that is a social dancer or that likes to salsa. And the whole time that I was in these monogamous relationships with these people, it was something that not only could I not share it with them, I couldn't even go do it alone on my own because of the fact that it would create jealousy with them, because they would feel like, oh, well, you're dancing with other men and there's other men are putting their hands on you, and oh, I don't like that, and it would create drama. So, and that was very frustrating because that was a part of me that I was not able to have fulfilled, and I couldn't be fully realized as a person because I had this restriction because I was with this one person that didn't like that. And similarly, amongst my many interests, is I love horror movies. I have yet to be with a partner that likes horror movies as much as I do. And so it would be like, hey, what do you want to watch on Netflix? And I would be like, let's watch, documentary about H.H. Holmes. And they're like, oh, you always want to watch, like, that serial killer shit. And I would be like, yeah, okay, so what? And that's frustrating. And if I had the option in the relationship to have another partner, it wouldn't have been a strain on this relationship that they didn't really like to do any of the things that I like to do. And at many times I would wind up compromising and, okay, well, let's just do whatever you want to do. Just to keep it easy, just to keep it simple. We'll just do whatever you want to do. Because that's the kind of person I am. I'm really easygoing. I'm really chill. I'm really laid back. I'm more about the other person being happy than about having, like, a huge debate to the end of the world about, like, why can't we just have everything in common? Because you're not going to have everything in common. And when you... And it's in many ways, and I realized this later, it is selfish. It would be selfish for me to be like, well, I want to go salsa dancing, and you have to go learn how to dance salsa, or I'm going to break up with you. How selfish would that be of me to expect somebody or to demand of somebody to do something that they have absolutely no interest in, that they don't want to do, that they don't care about, and how selfish to demand that of them, something that doesn't naturally, innately come from them. It's very selfish. And so the benefit of being in a polyamorous relationship is that you can have those people that you have that one or two or three or however many things that you have in common with, and the things that you don't have in common with them, you have in common with somebody else. And what you don't have in common with that person, you have in common with somebody else. And there is no pressure on any one individual to be all of the things to you all the time. Because nobody can be everybody's everything in every single way all the time, because we're just not built that way. At least I don't think we're built that way. So that's how I feel in that respect. Now, the way you're probably like, okay, so if straight people and gay people and everybody can be polyamorous, how does this relate to bisexuality? Well, the way that it relates to bisexuality, in my personal situation, and I mean, to me it's kind of like, duh, is that if I want to be with a man and a woman at the same time, not necessarily at the same time, because maybe he's straight and maybe she's gay, so they're not going to be together. They would never be together, but they would be with me. So that's an option. And for those of you out there who think that makes me a greedy, slutty, hoe bag bisexual, I say to you, no. Because if both people know about each other, okay, so we're talking about full honesty, full disclosure. Both people know about each other, and they know what's going on. So there's no cheating. There's no going behind anybody's back. What it really means to me is that I am fully, truly expressing my sexual orientation and my sexual identity, is what that really is to me. Because there are some people that say, oh, you know, I would never be with a bisexual because I would always be worried about the fact that they would want the other gender that they're not with. And in my case, is that true? Not necessarily. Because, you know, polyamory means that I can be with two women or I can be with two men. Doesn't necessarily have to be about gender. Or I could be with, like, you know, a guy and a girl and a trans person and maybe another girl. Who knows? The combinations and the possibilities are endless. At the end of the day, it's really all about love. It's about friendship. It's about full self-expression. And it's about, most importantly to me, is living authentically. Because the more authentically you live your life, the healthier you will be as a human being. So the sooner that you recognize within yourself that I am unhappy because I am locking myself into this one thing and I am forcing this one thing upon me because it is the societal norm that has been forced upon me, the sooner you realize that and you go, you know what, I don't have to conform to any of those things. I can be the person that I want to be and what makes me happy. And what makes me happy is not to be locked down into one person. What makes me happy is to have the freedom to experience other human beings, because every human being has something amazing and beautiful and unique about them to offer and to contribute to my learning and my growth as a person. And it's really, some people, you know, call that relationship anarchy. And I really like that phrase, and you can hashtag that if you want, relationship anarchy. And again, there are those that would be like, oh, well, this is why I would never be with a bisexual. Well, first of all, like I mentioned earlier, not all bisexuals are polyamorous. They're not. Many of them aren't. There are many bisexuals who are happily married in monogamous relationships, either with a same-sex partner or an opposite-sex partner or a trans person or whatever. So it's really not fair to classify all bisexuals as being that way. And I would never say that they're all that way, because they're not. They're not. And many bisexuals are perfectly capable of being in monogamous relationships, and that's all they want. They're not interested in polyamory. They're not interested in threesomes. They're not interested in any of that stuff, or swinging or fetish stuff or whatever. I think that it is society and it has been our culture to fetishize and sexualize bisexuality and make these assumptions that these are things that we all do. And it's not things that we all do, but it is something that some of us do. And that is okay. And within the bisexual community, there needs to be like a chill out, relax about it, because there are some bisexuals that do want to be with both genders, and that's okay. And there are some bisexuals that, you know, I mean, that's really it. That's kind of the long and short of it. There are some bisexuals that want to be with both genders, sometimes at the same time, like individually, sometimes at the same time in a threesome or a foursome or a fun time, whatever. And all of that is okay. Some people will say that that's sexually devious, or some people will say that that's a perversion, or some people will say you must be ridden with STDs and you're just a big slut and a whore. Well, actually, I am extremely picky. Being polyamorous does not mean that I'm promiscuous. It just means that I can love multiple people. I'm by no stretch of the imagination promiscuous. I won't have sex with just anybody. I'm extremely picky with both men and women and anybody about who I'm with. And so being bi and being poly does not equal promiscuity. And I regularly get tested, and that's something that is discussed. You have to discuss with your partners. You have to be like, okay, so we're going to do this thing. Have you been tested? And it sounds like an uncomfortable conversation to have, but you know what? If we're all grown-ups, if we're all adults here, and we have sex, this is something that we do, and we like it, and we want to keep doing it. And so we have to have these conversations, especially if we are polyamorous individuals. We have to sit down, no matter how awkward and weird it might feel, and be like, when was the last time that you got tested? Can I see your paperwork if you have any? You know, and we are using condoms, or we are using dental dams, or we are going to be fluid bonded, or whatever. Google it. But it's definitely discussed, and we're very safe. And again, it's all about consent, and it's all about honesty and openness, and keeping it real. And I think that once you really get a grip on what, you know, polyamory really is, and once you get a grip on what bisexuality really is, again, there's no wrong or right way to be bisexual. There's no wrong or right way to be polyamorous. There's no wrong or right way to be monogamous. Okay, maybe there's a wrong way to be monogamous, which is to not be monogamous. That would be the wrong way, but you get what I mean. And I think that, again, my purpose for discussing this and for talking about it is because within the bi community there is, I know I've already mentioned this like 3 times, but there's polyphobia. And there's people that hate on me. There's bisexuals that hate on other bisexuals because of the fact that they're polyamorous. And it's like, if you don't want people to hate you because you're bisexual and because of that lifestyle that you live, you have no business hating on me because I am also bisexual and I just have a different lifestyle than you. It's like being vegan and hating somebody who's an omnivore because they're an omnivore. Being vegan doesn't work for everybody. Like, I'm type O positive. I could never be vegan. I would die. Like, I have to eat meat. I need it to survive. I really do. But that works for some people. Like my ex-girlfriend, she has to be vegan because she can't digest meat. Do I hate her for that? Do I think there's something like intrinsically wrong with her for that? Absolutely not. She just lives a different lifestyle than I do. There's no reason for there to be animosity over it. I think that we need to be more accepting of the fact that, again, human sexuality is something that is extremely diverse. It is something that is extremely complex. And it is something that every individual is going to express in their own way. And because we are each going to express our sexuality in our own way, we need to be more accepting of the fact that not everybody is going to express their sexuality the way that we do. So if we're monogamous, we can't get mad that other people are polyamorous. And if we're polyamorous, we can't get mad that other people are monogamous. It's ridiculous. You know, like, why? We should embrace the diversity of all of the different ways that we express our sexuality, and we should learn from each other and learn, what can I get out of that? What can I learn from this person who lives their life in this way? And how can I use that knowledge to be a better human being or to be more successful in my own relationships? That is what we should be doing, is embracing each other and learning from each other. And, you know, just trying to, like, figure it all out. What works for me? What doesn't work for me? Because ultimately, you get this life. It's this one. This is a one-person sport. You make all the rules, believe it or not. Regardless of what the rules of society and your parents and the government, we're not talking about all of that external stuff. We're talking about you. Number one, numero uno. You make all the rules for your life and how you choose to lead your life, okay? So you can live an authentic life and you can say, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I like, and be completely unapologetic about it. Or, this is me, this is who I am, but I don't feel like I can really be this way because people are gonna hate me and da-da-da. Fuck if people hate you. Fuck what other people think, because they are not you. They don't make the rules for you. You make the rules for yourself. And if you have no rules, then you have no rules. And that is your one rule, that you have no rules. That's on you to make those decisions. It is on you to look out for your safety. It is on you to look out for your health. It is on you to be honest and open with whatever partner or whatever situation you choose to have. So I hope that in discussing polyamory and how it relates to my bisexuality, maybe your eyes have opened a little bit as to all of the possibilities. Because I remember when I went to a polyamorous workshop, I had no idea what polyamory really was. And that I had been kind of like unintentionally, inadvertently already somewhat practicing it, just never really calling it that. And when I heard other people talk about their stories and why they were unsuccessful in their monogamous relationships, well, it's like, of course you're unsuccessful in your monogamous relationships because you're not a monogamous person. You're a polyamorous person. And as soon as you take the monogamy shirt off and you put the polyamory shirt on, suddenly you have less hardship in your life. Suddenly you have less drama to some extent in your life. You're not hiding who you are. You're not cheating on anybody. You're not lying about what you're doing or who you want to be with or any of those things. You're being open and authentic and honest. And it was really eye-opening for me because I realized, oh my gosh, I am polyamorous. This is why I was unhappy for so long trying to do the monogamy thing, why I didn't feel fully fulfilled as a person doing the monogamy thing, why I didn't feel fully actualized and that I was fully expressing the full spectrum of my sexuality. Does this apply to all people? No, but it applies to me. And that's who it matters to, is it matters to me. So if it matters to you, then my advice is to do some research and have a sit down with yourself and make, as some people who have been in various groups would know, make it an honest self-evaluation and really figure out, I always say question everything that you are and why it is that you are those things. Are you a monogamous person because your whole life you were told that that was the only option for you? That that was what you have to do? Especially women. Women, I really want you to think about this because men have always been doing their own thing and men have always been, spreading the seed. It's the biological imperative of the man to want to have multiple partners and whatever. So, and this is not to say that there are men out there that don't want to be monogamous, because there are plenty of them that do. So I'm not judging all men, I'm just saying, different goals. Women, we've been taught specifically that we have to be with one man at a time or with one partner at a time, or else we're sluts and we're whores. And so I ask you, ladies specifically, are you monogamous because you choose to be monogamous? Because that's the cloth that you're cut from? And if so, that's awesome for you, that you're living your life the way you want. Or are you monogamous because your parents told you, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend told you, or somebody, a guidance counselor or a school principal, or somebody, pastor, church, whatever, somebody outside of you said to you, you have to be this way. Because if you are not this way, something is wrong with you. You are a pervert, you're a deviant, you're a bad, dishonest person. If that's the reason why that you're monogamous, even though you may not have monogamous feelings, then maybe you need to sit down and reevaluate what's really important to you. Is your happiness really important to you? Or is everybody else's happiness, everybody else's perception of you, is that more important to you? I don't know, you have to ask. That's your homework. So, again, if this helps one person help figure themselves out, I've done my good deed for the day. So, keep living, keep loving, and keep learning. Until next time.